Alright everybody, so welcome. So today I'll be showing you how to draft a male senator top. So we'll be doing a miniature scale like this one. So first thing first, let's say for example we want to work with a shoulder of 8 for instance. So I come here and I mark my 8. I mark up my 8. And now for a man's clothes you drop the shoulder by 2 to 3 inches. So this is what I will do. This is my 2 inches and I mark there. And I mark my 2 inches there. Once I've done that with my ruler, I would be doing this. Now why the man's shoulder is, the man's shoulder is actually broader than a woman's own, so that's why you need to slope the shoulder. So this is my shoulder area, this is where my shoulder stops, and I drop by 2. But if you're working for people that are quite huge and large, you could use 3. So I'm going to take my top length, for instance let's say 10, then I'll be adding 2.5 inches bending allowance here. 2.5 inches bending allowance here. So I'll go ahead to draw my line like this, and I would also draw the second line. Which happens to be my original top length. So this is my top length and this is my bending allowance. So once I have this established, I would go ahead to now mark. Now a basic neck is 1.5 here by 3, but this doesn't make the last part, so I just call this my temporary neck, or you could just leave it at 1, then later on you can now adjust it, because for the neck area we'll still do a little trimming to have our final neck out. So you could just do this for now, or just use 1. Then with the help of your curve, you curve the edge here. So I have that, and I'll go ahead to cut it open that you could see. So this is it. I'm cutting this like this, and I have this. So that is that. Now coming to the armhole, it is very important. Yes, the original principle is shoulder divided. To get the armhole depth is shoulder divided by 2 plus ½ inches. But now I notice that when it comes to a man's clothes, using that here makes the shoulder drop too much. That way it becomes baggy. So what I do is I remove a temporary armhole, just something temporary like this. Then I go ahead to impute my body measurement divided by 4 like this, and I add 1 inch sewing allowance. Remember, a man's senator top is not fitted like a woman's own. You make it free. You add at least 1.5 ease allowance from the person's fitted measurements. So I have this. So let's assume this. So now this becomes my this thing. Now next thing we want to check out is the slit point, because the man's senator top there's always a slit on the side. Now notice, if you're working for a top length of 32, you can use 6 inches for the slit. But if you're working for a top length of like 45, 46, or anything from 35, you would use up to 8, 9, 10, 12. So it varies as the top length increases. Then for kids, you would just use your discretion for that. Now the width of this place could be or you could be 1 inch or half inches, but I prefer using 1 inches here. Now remember that the slit here doesn't start from here. The 6 to 7 inches I'm saying doesn't start from the bending allowance, it's on the main body. So now you see I extend it down to the lower part of the body. So with that being done, I would cut out this. Remember, this is my temporary armhole, and I will still get my main armhole. So this is how I'm going to cut this up. And we have this as our temporary. Now if this body size is looking funny for you, remember this is just for analysis purpose. I could do like this. If this was to be the measurement, now it's the same thing, but I'm just reducing the body size to make it sync well more. So let's say this is our front bodies. This is our front bodies. Our front bodies. Now for this neck, you could still remove something smaller. If you have a neck of 16 or 18, you could still remove 13 or 14 for a start, so that when you now want to do your final trimming for the neck, you now know what to do. So now coming to the back block, this is what I do. I keep my front block like this. Now for the back slope, I take up to 2.5 or 3 inches like this. I mark here, then I come to the base here and I mark 2.5. While I need to mark it separately is because the front and this side is sloped. So they cannot have the same inches. If you take 2 here or 3 here, it cannot be the same here because it's a slope. So I'll go ahead to mark my slope like this. Then once that is done, you connect here to meet together. However, when going out, come out at least half inches, because if you take it all straight, when we want to drop the shoulder, it will be one will be shorter than one, but if you tilt it out this way, you would see what I mean. So once you have this, you go ahead to cut. It's simple principle. The back of a senator top is longer than the front. Just almost the same thing we have in trouser, where the back is longer than the front. Okay, so this is it. This is our front versus our back. So now we want to remove both the shoulder and the armhole and the neck. What do? I bend this way. Now you see, in the process of doing this already, the back is now tilted out, which is now where you're going to curve. The idea is for you to curve and here meet. Meanwhile, the depth for the back neck is always 1 inches. Meanwhile, the width for the back is mostly bigger by 1 inches than the front. But I would always still do a final trimming for my neck. So I'll go ahead to take this out like this, and see the back neck is coming out. Let me make that smooth for you to see. So you see, we now have a smoothened back neck. So you see, it's relaxed, just like you see in senators. It's relaxed, and this is it. So final thing would be removing the armhole. So what I need to do for the armhole is, now most times if you use the 9 for a shoulder of 18, it might be too long. So what I do is I decide to use 8.5. for body of 42 up to 35. But if the body exceeds that, or if I have something up to like 45, I could use 9.5 or 10 at most. So now what you do is measure that which you had at from the back point here, and you would mark. For instance, if my shoulder was 8, which is 4.5, which is 4, then and the rest, or let's say a shoulder of 18, which would be now, which on full becomes 9, I would mark it here like this, then draw out your line. Then with the help of your cuff, you now create your armhole with the help of your cuff, or you use every other existing techniques for achieving cuff. Now for a man's clothes, if you make this straight like this, it would squeeze under the armpit. So what you do is you go out, even the curve doesn't go sharp in, you go out like this. So once you have that, you can now cut it out, and you would have your block ready for sewing. So that's that on how to draft a man's top. Remember, this is just a mini mature scale for the purpose of learning, but same principle applies if you're working on something big. So I'll see you in the next class for the gumming, ironing and sewing stage. Till then, I remain your teacher and friend, Uncle Tunas. Bye.